Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Tuesday edition of Today in Sports Betting, doing it NBA playoff style. How about that, Scott? Finally, it's the playoffs, sort of.
Yeah, we'll put quotes around playoffs, but it's postseason basketball.
It's postseason basketball. There you go. There's a lot of teams that aren't playing any more games. So we've got the play-in. We have the first NBA play-in games.
Well, technically, if you include last year, we had the 8 versus the 9 in the West.
Well, okay.
But
Yeah.
This is the first actual, I don't want to say official thing, but I don't even know what to call it. It's the first time it's happening in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, there you go. How about that? So we've got 2 games tomorrow, 2 games on Wednesday. The East will go at it tomorrow. The least conference, Scott. Starting off with the Hornets and the Pacers. Pacers, they won the right yesterday to get the home court advantage here. They are a 3-point favorite there in Indy. And a little bit of money coming in on the Pacers at this point. Opened up at 2.5. At Pinnacle now stands at 3 total on this, 229. Dipped down a little bit, Scott. A lot of believers in that Pacers defense. 229 is where it opened. It's now down to 227.5 in most spots, even 227 if you wanted to head over to DraftKings. So how you got this one set up, my man?
Well, first of all, I agree with the line movement. I like the under as well. I know that Indiana's been an awful defensive team for most of the season, but it is the playoffs, and usually when you get the playoffs involved, you do see either more, I'd say, intense effort on defense, or maybe just the referees let you get away with murder a little bit more. But I
think you got a little from column A and a little from column B there, sir.
Probably, but I know Indiana's played fast. These teams have played 3 times this season. No game has gone higher than 222. So 227.5 still sounds too high to me. I like the under. I'm not sure if the refs will let these players get away with murder or not, but I do think you'll see less calls, especially since it's one of the only 2 games on TV. You don't exactly want a foul fest, but
right.
I think this game will be close, so I don't really want to touch the side, but I do think there's value on the under, especially since all 3 games ended up landing below 223 during the regular season.
All right, very good. I think that's probably a pretty solid play. This is I like the way this Indiana team played coming down the stretch, Scott. They won 3 of their last 5, but they covered 6 of their last 7, and one of those, and the one they didn't cover was a push against the Cavaliers as they won by exactly 9. So they had a monster number there they didn't cover. But I think this is a team that's, I don't know, I wouldn't call them peaking, but I think they're playing good basketball at the right time. On the other hand, you've got the Charlotte Hornets, who have dumped 5 straight coming down the stretch, and they could have indeed played themselves into that home game, but they did not do that, and they had a little bit of a shot. So I like the Pacers in this spot. I got to tell you, I know that that Sabonis and Brogdon are officially listed as questionable, and obviously that's going to be a big factor for me.
But we both know Sabonis is going to play.
I personally, Scott, I think they're both going to play.
I was going to say the big question is Brogdon. We both know Sabonis realistically is going to play.
Yeah, he played on a Sunday and played pretty well, and I think he will play.
It's also an elimination game, so your best player is probably going to show up on an elimination game.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be. To me, it has to be all hands on deck, right?
Brogdon, I have no idea, because Brogdon's been out for, I don't even know how long he's been out at this point, because he's been questionable for about a month, or it feels that way.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the last time he's played. When was the last time Brogdon actually played?
What a great question. Let me look real fast here. He's officially out with a hamstring.
It might not have even been in May. Like, it might have been back in April.
It does seem like he's been on the injured list forever.
It's been a hot minute, as the kids say.
He played 56 games, Scott. The last game he played, believe it or not, was April 29th.
I was right. It was April. Okay.
So I think you said might not have played.
I said it might have been April the last time that he played.
It was. He played. He got hurt in that game against Brooklyn. Played just 12 minutes on the 29th and hasn't played since.
Point is, though, that assuming Brogdon, let's just say he does play in an all hands on deck thing, 20 minutes tops.
I don't think he's going to be on a restriction. I think he's going to play as long as the hamstring lets him play.
I think it's that, but it's also a matter of him actually just getting his bearings back after not being in the lineup for about.
And you may not be in game shape. Yeah, I probably give him a little more than that. Scott. I'd probably creep him up closer to 25. But yeah, point taken. He's not going to be at full strength for 40 minutes.
I think everyone else that the Pacers sat for the last couple of games, with LeVert, who sat a game or two, but he played the last couple. He, of course, is going to play. I think Aaron Holiday is going to play. I'm assuming Turner's not. I think Turner is going to be out indefinitely, so I don't expect to see Miles Turner walking through that door. You agree with that?
Yeah, he's out. He's listed as out indefinitely with that toe. So
I don't expect a Willis Reed performance where he just
there's been no upgraded to questionable or anything like that.
I think he's out, but Indiana should win this game based on how Charlotte's played lately. However, I'm going to give Charlotte a bit of a pass for the 5-game losing streak. The loss to New Orleans wasn't ideal, especially since, well, they were missing Bridges and they were missing a bunch of people, but New Orleans has nobody, and they probably should have won that game. But you lose to Denver, you lose to the Clippers, you lose to the Knicks, you lose to the Wizards. Those are all playoff teams. The only problem is that now you're also facing a potential playoff team in Indiana. But I really just don't feel confident laying points with this Pacers team. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because I don't like either of these teams, but I do like the under because I think that there's some value on A, expecting a little bit of a different brand of basketball in the playoffs, and B, 223 wasn't even reached in these games, as I said before. So how is the total 227.5?
Yeah, it's amazing because they've played monster first halves. They played one monster first half at 124, and then couldn't get home as that game ended up at 223. So they played the second half at 99.
I want to see if Turner played in all these games, though, so I want to actually check this. But
in the first game back in April, they had 109 in the first half.
So Turner did play.
113. So
Turner did play in those games. So of course he was one of the best defensive centers in the league. So maybe that's why you're expecting a higher scoring game, because Turner being out's a big deal. But I don't know. I feel like back in the line movement there definitely makes sense. 2 points is definitely nothing to scoff at, especially when the lines come out about a day or two in advance.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, this is it's a Pacers team, Scott, that's scored a ton.
Can't guard anybody, but they're fun.
Coming down the stretch here. I think what's probably one of the most impressive performances, not putting up necessarily 133 against Milwaukee. It's putting up 115 against the Lakers, even though they lost that game. They did cover the number.
I can't believe they scored 115 with that team, because if you looked at who they actually had, they benched like everybody in that game.
Right. I remember that. So, yeah, that's a situation where I think that the Pacers are able to step up. I think they've got the personnel, and they've gone on their stretch. They've gone on their streak without Brogdon. So I'm with you. My first play is probably going to be the under. I do like that play, but I've got to fade this Charlotte team that just doesn't seem to be playing good basketball right now.
That's fair. As for the side, if I had to pick a side, I guess I'll take the points because I think this game will be close. But once again, I don't really want anything to do with either of these teams, and whichever of these teams end up winning this game, I'm assuming we're probably going to take Boston or Washington over these teams. Actually, Boston maybe not, but Washington we would take over either of these teams.
Wow, talk about spoiler alert for the next game.
Well, it wasn't a spoiler alert. It was more of a segue.
Sure.
I was spoiling the game that would be taking place after for the 8-9 matchup, but for the sake of
But you've already said who you think is going to win this game.
Well, no, I said if Boston wins, then I don't know who I would take it between Indiana and Charlotte. But if Washington wins, I would take Washington.
Right. So
I said if. I didn't spoil anything. Well, I don't get what I spoiled. I said if.
Because it indicates that you think Washington is a better team than Boston.
No, I was saying that it indicates Washington's a better team than either Indiana or Charlotte, because they would have to play against the.
I understand. So you don't think Washington's a better team than Boston right now?
I think that'll segue us to the next game, which is why it comes up to in conversation. But I'm just
Spoiler
saying,
alert, I'm going to save everybody about 10, 15 minutes. Washington is the better team than Boston right now, and getting him at 2 points is a gift.
that's well put. I don't really have much to add to that. Do you want anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean I will talk about it. It looks like Boston is going to get some guys back. The all hands on deck situation.
Larry Bird coming back?
What's that?
You got McHale coming back?
Robert Parrish and
You got Parrish. They got the whole crew back together.
I meant more along the lines of Robert Williams, Kemba Walker, Fournier.
Do we know what kind of form Kemba's even close to being in at this point?
Yeah, I've been down to the practice today, and I can tell you he looks good.
Okay, because he's been moving basically.
No, we have no idea what kind of form.
I know, and nobody knows. That's the point. Kemba's been playing, but he hasn't been playing well. It's been the case he's had all year, where he has been dealing with some leg issues. And I said earlier in the year, the main issue with the team is Kemba, because he just has not flowed with that team at all. And without Jaylen Brown, there's a lot more pressure on Kemba, because you know that the defensive game plan for Washington, which is an oxymoron because they don't have many defensive game plans, is going to be on stopping Tatum. So Walker's going to need to have a big game if they want a shot to win this game.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it happens. I really don't. I think.
Well, Beal announced he's not at 100%, but he played anyway in the season finale against Charlotte, and he didn't play well, but he had 20-something points. But if you're talking about the second fiddle on both teams being injured, Beal's current form at like 75% is better than Kemba's form at like 60%. So I'll go with Washington. But I do think this game will be
told there'd be no math.
Well, not even math related. Even if you flipped it.
I can do fractions now? Come on, man.
Even if you flip it, I'd rather have Beal at 60 than Kemba at 75.
Yeah, that's the real statement right there.
I think you'd agree with it. Would you?
I think Beal is poised to be a superstar in this league, Scott. I think he's at that second level, and I think he's poised to become one of the first level guys.
I group him with Zach LaVine personally.
What's that?
I group him with Zach LaVine. He's a guy who always struck me as a very good scorer, but if he's the best player on your team, you're probably not going to be too good.
Well, luckily, he's not the best player on the
team. Correct. That's the point. So if you're talking about a Robin situation, Beal is one of the best Robins in the league.
Well, and he's got a great guy to throw him some. I couldn't think of a Batman analogy for assist. I'm sorry, it went through my head. I couldn't think of it. He's got a great guy to feed him the rock, Scott. In Westbrook, who's seems intent on pretty much dishing out 15 dimes a game, and part of that is because of Beal being in the right.
And that's on a conservative day.
Yeah, I mean, some of the numbers he's put up as far as assists are just outrageous.
But you're going through Boston. I do think that getting Williams back is important because he's one of the best defensive players they have who can actually switch. But, I mean, you're looking at this team, and it's just not very good, this Boston team. Now, I do have faith in Brad Stevens being a better coach than Scott Brooks. I don't think Brooks is a good coach at all, but Stevens has had a pretty bad year. So you can make an argument either way. But at the end of the day, do I really want to put much faith in Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart hitting like multiple shots that they're going to need to end up making? No, I don't.
Well, and the betting markets have kind of been weird on this one, Scott. It opened up a Pinnacle -1.5 for the Wizards and has flipped around as the Celtics are now 2-point favorite. And I know that had to be a really early line.
I'm assuming that's blind Garden with fans, right?
It's blind what?
Garden with fans. They're just looking at Celtics having home court and just giving them 2.5 points.
Yeah, I think that has to be. And they have name recognition. They might have, the Wizards playing some dreadful games, giving up a ton of points. But I would think a lot of that is because it's Boston and it's the Garden. So
that's how I'm looking at it. So
yeah, I agree. So what do you got there?
I got to go with Washington. If I had to make a choice now for the total, it's high. It's in the 230s. Playoffs tend to be low scoring, but I really want to take an under with Washington. Of course not. So I'm not touching the total, but I do like Washington. I think that this team is good enough to beat Boston, and I know that this team's going to fight to the end. They're not going to roll over. But when you lose Brown and at some point your team's basically a ticking time bomb, aren't you already – let's just say if you go down early, aren't you kind of just mentally packing it in at that point? I'm not saying they will, but just I always think about that with motivation. If your second best player's out and well, if we win this one, we got to face Brooklyn. Like, ouch. That's not – and not Brooklyn, sorry. It would be Brooklyn. It's like, ouch. That's not really a good spot,
Right.
I'm not saying that matters because I know Boston had a big comeback against the Spurs a while back, and they've been kind of a resilient team at times, mostly because they fall behind double digits all the time in the first half. But it's just – I just think losing Brown's too much. I got to go with Washington.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm feeling that as well. If I had to play it, I'd probably lean to the under a little bit as far as the total goes.
I'd lean under 2, but that's mostly based on the idea that I just don't think Boston can run with Washington. So I think if Boston wants to win, I think they have to slow the pace.
Yep.
So that's how I would look at it. If you think Boston keeps it close, I'd lean under. But I got to go with Washington because this team, not just of playoff teams or just in general, this team has been playing so well lately. And people have noticed, but I don't think they've really noticed, and they've only been paying attention to Westbrook's stats. This team's gotten better.
Yeah, they have. Their defense has gotten better.
It's not good, but it's better than it was.
Right. No, it was epically bad,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's gotten considerably better here. So
yeah.
All right, very good. I was going to say anything else, and no, there isn't. That's all the games we have. So that's going to do it. If you guys are looking for more information on these games, more in depth, I don't know why you could. We've just pretty much covered everything. But if you need a little more and another opinion, perhaps, don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com. Best resource on the interwebs for sports betting information. Always there, every game, every single day, full predictions and previews, and always free. So make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. For myself and for Scott Reichel, we appreciate you guys watching today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Always appreciate the effort. You guys take care. Have a great day. Hope every one of those bets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window, all right? Good luck on everything, and we'll see you around the corner on the next edition. It's the baseball style of Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everybody.